course, you know you're back on another journey to truth in life, where we utilize this power of truth to be set free from the chains of deception. Of course, I am Case Owens. I go by the name of MTAC, um, more than a conqueror. And there have truly been a lot of obstacles that need to be conquered in the way of societal progress. One of those is racism. So, in today's live stream, I want to bring awareness to uh, a real perpetual war that is taking place here in the United States and, of course, globally against the true Israelites, biblical Israelites of the scriptures, not what's going on overseas or any sort of Truman Show theatrics. It, the scripture says that charity, love starts at home, and then it's able to go abroad and affect others. So if we don't deal with the problems here in our own atmosphere here in the United States of America, it would be hypocritical for us to say that we are offering charitable acts elsewhere. Here in the United States, I have been victimized by the FBI counterintelligence program in conjunction with the CIA, Department of Homeland Security. I've been identified as um, um, those that came before me of the Israelite community as a threat to the establishment of white supremacist power that currently run this system. I have many testimonials of the attacks on my life and my family life, how my entire life have been destroyed and dismantled through the counterintelligence tax-funded war against the Black community. Of course, I noticed this after releasing a report on 9/11 being an inside job uh, in conjunction with my um, outspokenness on racial injustice. Now, you're going to hear briefly a snippet from fellow community activist by the name of Maisha Hayes and Senator Omar, former Senator Omar of Minnesota. And we're well versed as to the uh, counterintelligence attack, which is spiritual, against Senator Omar, who's an African lady who was attacked after speaking out at a congressional meeting against Zionists, the same people of the Rothschilds, the bankers, the ones that control all media platforms, etc., and have weaponized the Department of Justice along with the FBI, CIA, etc., as a tool to control and eliminate the Black population. And this has been ongoing. They've done it from the outside in and from the inside out. These are the same Zionists that funded and created or so-called pro-Black organizations such as the NAACP. The NAACP, which Martin Luther King was a part of, along with W.E.B. Du Bois prior to him, was created by the Zionist IMF bankers that are globalists controlling the entire world to control and subjugate the so-called Black, which is the Israelite community from the inside by giving them uh, gatekeepers, compromised so-called leaders um, that play to the tune of their music, basically keeping Blacks subjugated and marginalized in the social construct of a racial bias America. So I'm going to digress, and I will stop, pause, and interject as needed. But Maisha Hayes is going to start off, and you can see the full documentary if you're subscribed to this channel. Also, you're going to hear from a Israelite black gentleman from the state of Memphis, who, like myself, was infiltrated with undercover agents, had community members, etc., uh, turned against him through lies, rumors, slander. I've gone through everything that he's saying in his testimony and much, much more. I've been beaten, drugged, poisoned, and violated in the worst ways by government agent provocateurs currently seeking justice. And this is the truth. Let's get into it.
So I'd like to welcome you all to our briefing, COINTELPRO 2020, How the FBI Continues to Disrupt the Fight for Racial Justice in America. My name is Maisha Hayes, and I'm the campaign director at Media Justice.
The FBI continues, so it's nothing new, continues to disrupt the fight for racial justice. What do that mean? That means the FBI is a institution, talking about the institution of white supremacy. It is a slave patrol system keeping the black community in line. And when someone steps out of line, they are dealt with in the worst ways. This is the reality of it. Nothing new. Let's continue.
Media Justice leads the Protect Black Dissent campaign and is hosting this briefing in partnership with Free Press. For those who aren't familiar with Media Justice, we are a national organization fighting for racial, economic, and gender justice in a digital age. I want to start off by talking a little bit about why we're here today. We're here today because for the last 2 years, the FBI has been exposed repeatedly for surveilling Black activists under a new domestic terrorism term called Black identity extremism.
So the FBI have been repeatedly exposed for their war on a black community, specifically leaders and activists who are outspoken and identify as being black. If you identify with your heritage, your culture, you are considered a terrorist if you're black. This is the reality of it. Here in America, the white supremacist system is perpetuated, regardless of your race, creed, ethnicity, or religious political views. This is the reality of it. So when we talk about systematic racism, we're not talking about individuals, we're talking about a system that is created in order to produce racist acts. Racism is an action, right? And the FBI is the tool being used in order to perpetuate racism here in the United States. Let's continue.
The nation, Black identity extremists effectively categorizes Black dissent as an act of violence and signals to law enforcement that Black activists in particular poses a threat to police and public safety.
Community policing, right? National security. This is why you're being thrown on watch list. This is why I was thrown on a watch list. Not because I have a criminal background, because that don't exist. Not because I have a background of violence, because it don't exist. But because I understand who I am as a Israelite melanated man, and I see the oppression of my people the same way that Moses saw the oppression of the Israelites underneath the Mizraim or Egyptian era. America's the new spiritual Egypt. Read Book of Revelations chapter 7. because I was willing to speak out against these injustices, not just domestically and not just for my people, but globally, and call out the demons and the devils behind the scene. I was thrown on this list, and many others was thrown on this list, and the FBI have misrepresented us as a threat to police or community policing, especially in public safety. So whether you're on your job, whether you're at your home in your community, the lie is spread it through authorization of the FBI that you pose a threat to the establishment of power, racism, and public safety. This is why notifications are sent out, and this is the reality of it. So if you're white, black, brown, yellow, I don't care. If you're against racism, if you're against injustice, if you're against inequality, then you shouldn't be for what the FBI is doing, especially the criminal behaviors of torture, murder, rape, um, psychological warfare, lying, slander, etc. But we'll continue.
As a result, Black activists are more vulnerable to police harassment, surveillance, and arrest.
Police harassment, surveillance, and arrest. This is what they do. The police harass, and now they have community-based agents that harass. 24-hour surveillance. This is my life. Track, trace, monitor, surveil, and arrest. They don't have to put physical handcuffs on you in order to arrest you, in order to restrict you from the freedoms that is innate. I've been confined to my home and prior to homelessness ever since this warfare have been launched on my life. But I'm not the only victim. And white supremacy is the tool that the devil is using in order to perpetuate it. Let's continue.
Fortunately, these threats are nothing new. Over 50 years ago, the FBI was surveilling civil rights activists under the COINTELPRO program to discredit and disrupt the civil rights movement at the time.
To discredit and disrupt, that is what the FBI do, right? So for me specifically, they hired actors, even black, so-called black. They've hired the homosexual community, and I have nothing against nobody in their stance as long as they don't bring that homosexuality my way. But this is the reality of it. They will use black Judases and anyone else that they can intimidate through fear or um, bribery, convince, they will use them, even if they're your own. So I've been attacked by blacks, I've been attacked by whites, Mexicans, foreigners, right? And the homosexual community. So all of these sectors are underneath this satanic FBI control, being weaponized against those that stand up for right. Let's continue.
Dissent to surveil racial justice activists was wrong in the past, and it has no place in our present or our future. This is why almost a year ago, Media Justice launched the Protect Black Dissent campaign to fight back against this concerted effort to undermine the liberation work that Black and Brown communities of color are doing today, especially since the birth of the Black Lives Matter movement. So in addition to hearing more from me, you're going to hear from a number of experts, including Keegan Franklin, an activist fighting back on police harassment in his hometown of Memphis, Tennessee, Alice Berry, a journalist at The Intercept, who's been covering the issue of politicized surveillance, and Gerardo Romo, a legal fellow at the ACLU's Racial Justice Program, who's been working with us at Media Justice on our FOIA request and litigation. This conversation will also be moderated.
The FOIA request and litigation, I filed for my FOIA through which is the Freedom of Information Act. You have the right to be informed if you're under an investigation or review. You can go to the Department of Homeland Security .gov website or the FBI website and request a FOIA form. I've done both, and they refuse to release my public and private files. So I'm underneath full investigation, and my record isn't being disclosed, which I have a right to my FOIA. So I suggest, if you are being attacked in this war, being carried out by the FBI, request your FOIA. And if they send you some sort of response that is not telling you what you need to know, not specifically saying that you're not underneath any sort of investigation, etc., that is your evidence that you are on a terrorist watch list or community watch list, that you are subject to attacks from the FBI and its subcontracting counterparts. We're going to continue.
Sandy Fulton, the Government Relations Director at Free Press. Before we move into our panel discussion, I'd like to welcome and thank Representative Omar for being with us today. As some of you already know, Representative Omar has been a champion in this fight, fighting against politicized surveillance of Black activists. She has intimate knowledge of this topic and all of the issues that we're going to touch on today. So we're so glad that you could join us, and I'll turn it to you to open up with some remarks.
Now, Senator Omar, she was tortured, harassed, threatened, forced to divorce her husband and to remarry a white man as a public shaming tactic in order to keep her children alive. This is what have happened to her since she was standing up in 2020, speaking out against the racial injustice, followed by the shaming of the state that she oversighted with the George Floyd incident, right? So prior to getting her removed from office, etc., they created the George Floyd incident as a mockery in her face. So she was forced to marry a white man, divorce her Black husband in order to keep her children alive. This is what the FBI done to this woman behind the scenes that no one knows about. Let's continue.
Good morning, everyone. It is a complete honor to be here with you all. Thank you so much for engaging in this critically important conversation. In a racist society, it is not enough to be non-racist. We must be anti-racist. Angela Davis spoke those words nearly 50 years ago, but they continue to echo today. Our task as organizers is not only to call out a specific instance of racism, it is to recognize that our history is built on the oppression of Black bodies.
The history of America is built on the oppression of Black bodies. This is the reality of it. America's history is built on the murder of Black men, women, and children. If you refuse to acknowledge that and accept that, you cannot even call yourself a child of the Most High. You can't even say that. I don't care if it's a white person, Mexican, Black, Asian. Murder is wrong, but this country, this racist system is built off murdering Black men, women, and children, specifically those that stand up against the tyrannical white supremacist system. And it's been like this since our inception here through the transatlantic slave trade. This is the reality of it. It didn't stop, it continues. And I am just one of many victims. Kabash said he put in his request through the FBI in immigration control and have been denied. This is the reality of the real war against the true children of Israel, the one that they overlooked, the one that the press, which is owned by the Zionist Jews, refuse to acknowledge or give any sort of publication because they're the ones funding it. And the FBI and the CIA works for them. These are factual truths. Let us continue with the former African state of Minnesota Senator Omar.
From slavery to Jim Crow to redlining to mass incarceration to photo suppression, racism is part of the foundation of American power. When the
foundation of American power, the powers that be, racism, white supremacy, means American power. Foundation of it is racism. Let us continue.
Society is built on oppression. It takes deliberate and conscious effort to undo that. From civil rights movement of the 1960s to Black Lives Matter movement of today, those in power have sought to otherize, delegitimize, and systematically undermine Black people organizing for their basic rights.
Systematically undermine Black people. Even on my job, the job that I formerly had, they had Black Judases planted there. They had agents planted there, used to undermine and sabotage any sort of stability. The goal is to marginalize, and anyone who's seen as a leader, they're immediately identified and neutralized or eliminated on the spot. Systematic racism, systematic undermining of Black people is what systematic racism is here in America.
Why the response to Black-led peaceful resistance movements have been infiltration, delegitimization, and sometimes assassination.
Infiltration, remember I told you the 5 steps the enemy use is observation reconnaissance or hypersurveillance. That's number 1. Number 2 is infiltration, which is what she's speaking of. Manipulation, which is delegitimization, right? Intimidation, domination. This is how they dominate or oppress, in other words, the Black community. This is the reality of it. And the new and improved MT, I'm just going to give it to you like it is. I know the FBI is watching me. They're watching this video and they're upset about it. I will continue to speak the truth as long as the Most High give me life, health, and strength to do so without fear. Let's continue.
50 years ago, a 21-year-old American was murdered in his home by 14 Chicago police officers. They were later found to be colluding with the FBI as part of the COINTELPRO initiative.
14 police officers murdered someone in their home. It later was reported that local police officer had colluded with the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the same FBI that assassinated MLK, Malcolm X, deported Marcus Garvey, and pretty much dealt harshly with every sincere Black leader we've ever had. The Nazis, the FBI, the CIA, they're undercover Nazis. These are Nazi organizations that were formulated and burgeoned into what they are today, post Operation Paperclip. This is what you're dealing with. Undercover Nazis that are running this country. Nazis being paid and funded by Jewish bankers. This is the reality of it. Not just any, but Zionist Jewish bankers. This is the reality. Let's continue.
His name was Fred Hamilton. And we now know that his death came at the hands of his own government. This initiative was a series.
His death came at the hands of his own government. Government authorized assassination. This is the reality of it, people. I'm not going to continue any further. For those of you who do not believe that the government in modern times initiate or authorize assassinations like they have authorized an assassination on me, which the Most High have denied, do your homework, open your eyes and see the reality of the nightmare we call the American dream. The reality of it is his own government initiated his murder. They authorized it, approving the FBI to assassinate this young black man in his home. And this wasn't 50 years ago. This was within this decade. This have happened. And you hear people complaining about gang stalking. It's not a game, folks. It's not a game. This is the reality of the world we live in. People participating in civilian military operations, hired civilian assassins in our neighborhoods, in our communities, in our grocery stores, on our jobs, working for the government in order to discredit, slander, and assassinate black men, women, and children. This is the reality of truth. The entire video should be available on my on my YouTube. If you're subscribed, it'll be on the homepage. You will also hear the story of black activists from Memphis, Tennessee, who was informed by a political official that he was working with that he was on the FBI's assassination list. They had pictures of him on their walls with his height, family members, his mother's pictures, etc., where he go, who he talked to, everything about him. He was on their assassination list. That story is available on this documentary. I suggest you watch it. I suggest you guys quit ignoring the ugly truth, which is the fact that the American government from day one have been a tool used by Satan to destroy the true children of the Most High Yah, which is the so-called Negro man and woman, the true Israelites of biblical scriptures. It says, if Down syndrome sufferers are included in the terrorist list, the IQ of the FBI must be operating in the retarded range. I absolutely agree. You know, racism is a mental illness. It is a mental illness to think that your racial tone or your genetic code makes you superior to another, right? That is a mental illness. It's a mental complex. Think about it. They try to come up with vaccinations and cures for everything, from the common cold to the palsy. They even tried to come up with a cure for dementia, but no one wants to cure racism, right? There's no vaccines in the making to cure racism, to kill that gene. Why? Because those that concoct diseases and other biological, viral, or mental agents of war against the entire population, regardless of color, creed, or religion, they're the ones that are the racists. They don't want to cure themselves. They're the narcissists. They're the demons in flesh. Demonic spirits operate in a body, right? They have physical bodies. Who are they? Who are the demons walking amongst us? Ephesians chapter 6 tells us they would be those in high places, governmental principalities with authority and with power within a system. This is found in Ephesians chapter 6, verses 10 through 12. Not my words, the Most High Yah's words. Till next time, you guys continue to stay woke, continue to stay in the word, continue to fight the good fight of faith, because we need good people on the front line in this real war here in America and across the world. Till next time, you guys be blessed. Your boy MTAC has got to be his out.